And at this time, we will begin another important topic, and that is mental health issues and substance abuse issues that lawyers encounter. Our presenters on that topic are Sheryl Friedrichs of Wake Forest. Sheryl is a member of the firm Warren, Perry, and Anthony and concentrates primarily in the area of family law. And Ben Brown is a sole practitioner here in Raleigh and practices criminal defense. Both of them are involved, in addition to law practice, with the lawyers' issues, mental health and substance abuse. And thank you very much for appearing. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let me see if I can get this adjusted so you can hear me. It's a pleasure to have an opportunity to talk to you about the Lawyer's Assistance Program. I'm going to talk to you today primarily about the Friends Program. Ben Brown is going to talk to you primarily about the PALS Program. There may be some overlap there, and then if we have a few minutes at the end, we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions. My first encounter with the Lawyer's Assistance Program was as a third-year law student, when I saw a flyer on the law school bulletin board inviting law students in recovery to a reception at the North Carolina Supreme Court. And when I went to law school, I'd actually been sober for about 6 years, and I took that opportunity to go to the PALS reception, and I was amazed when I got there. I met Don Carroll, who's the director of the program, and volunteer attorneys who had driven from all parts of the state of North Carolina to meet and welcome law students. And as it turned out, it was a good thing that I did attend that reception, because one of the references that I provided for my application to take the bar exam reported something back to the Board of Law Examiners that caused them some concern about my drinking history. So I got a letter in the mail saying that they needed more information, and I was filled with fear, just knew I was not going to be allowed to take the bar exam, and I called Don Carroll, whom I had just recently met at that reception. And Don was so gracious, and he helped me respond to that inquiry by the Board of Law Examiners, and they did let me sit for the bar exam, and I went on to become a PALS volunteer. Now, the Lawyer's Assistance Program is a confidential program that is funded and run by the North Carolina State Bar, and it is now comprised of two programs. At the time that when I was in law school, it was just PALS, but then in 1999, the Friends Program was created. And you might wonder, just why does the State Bar have these kinds of programs? And the reason is that there has been a demonstrated need. PALS was formed back in the late 1970s because there were a large number, maybe as many as half or more of the complaints that were before the State Bar Disciplinary Hearing Committee were related to substance abuse problems suffered by attorneys. And PALS was formed to protect the public and protect the profession. And then Friends in 1999 was formed to assist attorneys with dealing with problems of depression or other mental health issues, and to provide educational outreach. Like PALS, Friends is staffed by full-time directors and has contacts with professionals in the mental health community who provide assessments and treatment as necessary, but they are staffed primarily, both programs are staffed primarily with volunteer attorneys like Ben and myself. The Friends program was formed for some of the same reasons that PALS were, because so many disciplinary problems were also related to attorneys' mental health issues, and surveys that were conducted within the profession indicated a large number of attorneys who were dissatisfied and disappointed with their careers practicing law, and more disturbing were statistics that showed that lawyers were more at risk than perhaps any other profession, certainly more at risk than the general population for suicide. And there's a great deal of misunderstanding about depression and mental health issues. Now, these disorders are not character weaknesses, and they are not just the normal highs and lows that all people experience. They are actual illnesses, and there are genetic and biochemical and environmental factors that play a part in the onset and the progression of these diseases. Depression and bipolar disorder are the two major types of depressive disorders, and in your material, I believe on page 7, there is a list of the symptoms of major depression, and on page 9, there are a list of symptoms of bipolar disorder. Women are twice as likely as men to experience major depression. However, bipolar disorder appears to affect both sexes equally. The onset of depression can occur at any age, but the most common age for onset is somewhere between the mid-20s and the mid-40s. Untreated depression can be fatal. There's roughly a 15% suicide rate from people who suffer from severe depression. And the significant difference between depression and those normal highs and lows that everyone experiences is the intensity of the symptoms and the length of time that those symptoms persist. But please understand that you do not have to be suffering from chronic depression or bipolar disorder to benefit from the Friends program. There are attorneys who have obtained help from the Friends program who are experiencing situational depression. A situational depression is one that is triggered by a life event such as the death of a family member, divorce or the ending of a relationship, unemployment or a financial crisis. Other problems that people can get help with through Friends are chronic stress, anxiety disorders, eating disorders, gambling. Now, when is gambling a problem? Gambling becomes a problem when it's interfering with your personal relationships, and it becomes a problem when it is interfering with your ability to meet your financial commitments every month. Sex addiction, which can involve personal contact or internet activity, and post-traumatic stress disorder, which actually can affect people other than soldiers, which is what I always thought only veterans had post-traumatic stress disorder, but that's not true. Now, as you leave today, on the table out there, there are brochures that look like this, and inside these brochures, there are self-evaluations where you can go through a list of symptoms and questions to ask to see if you might be suffering from chronic stress, from anxiety disorders, depression, bipolar disorder, or substance abuse. It also has some information about eating disorders, gambling, sex addiction, and post-traumatic stress disorders, and web addresses where you might obtain more information about those particular types of disorders. Now, my experience with depression has been of the situational type primarily. I told you earlier that I used to drink and now I don't. And back during the times that I was drinking, I would have periodic bouts of depression. And what I did then was drink to medicate those uncomfortable feelings, not knowing that consuming this depressant was actually making the depression worse, and that was not a solution. After I got sober, then those kinds of depressions became less and less frequent until they finally went away altogether. But since I've been sober, and where alcohol plays no part in it at all, I have experienced situational depression in that in April of 2002, I got one of those phone calls that every parent fears, and I found out that my son had just been killed in an accident. And that was in April. And in September of that same year, now remember, at this time I'm a PALS volunteer and I'm very familiar with the Lawyer's Assistance Program. But I just didn't see that anybody could do anything to help me because nothing could help me that couldn't bring my son back. And I went on about my daily life and work, and people would comment about how strong I was, and that kind of sounded very strange to me because I certainly didn't feel strong, but it was important to me to appear stoic and to not let anybody see me express any kind of emotion. Well, I can tell you that over time that's not a very healthy way to operate. And one day I realized as sitting in court that any of you who have suffered some grief will know that it actually washes over you in waves, and sometimes you feel perfectly okay, and then this wave will just wash over you coming out of nowhere. And the way I dealt with that when I was out in public is that I noticed that I would start digging my fingernails into my wrist, because then that physical pain would kind of distract me until that wave washed on. And it just occurred to me one day that that's probably not a real healthy way to live the rest of my life. And I picked up the phone and called Ed Ward, who, by the way, I knew very well through my association with the Lawyers Assistance Program, and he referred me to a grief counselor that I made the appointment. It was about a week out then, and I pulled into the parking lot the day of that first appointment, and I was so sorry that I called and made that appointment, because I thought, there's this just fruitless. This is pointless. There's nothing he can do to make me feel better. Only thing that could make me feel better is impossible. But being the people-pleasing person that I am, I would not think of not showing up for an appointment or calling at the last minute to cancel. So I went ahead and went in, and don't remember too much about that first meeting, but I do know that I felt comfortable, and I probably cried through the whole thing. But I went on and worked maybe 18 months after that with that counselor that Ed Ward referred me to. Some of those were one-on-one sessions and some were in groups. But at the end of that time, I came out better. And I just encourage you, I just pray to God that not a single person in this room ever has that experience. But I say that to show that there's nothing that you can experience that there's not hope that you can get help to go on and function. You never get over the death of a child. You just don't do that. But what I have done and what I was able to do through counseling that I was led to through the Lawyers Assistance Program is that I was able to adjust to this new reality in my life and go on and have be a productive person and how to deal with those emotions. But whatever reason it is that you might want to call friends, be assured that that call that you make is confidential. If you call friends to get help for yourself, that communication is confidential. If you call friends because you want to get help from an attorney that you know, that communication is confidential. The attorney-client privilege applies, the same privilege like your communication with your clients. If you want to talk, if you call Ed Ward or Don Carroll, or if you want to talk to me, or if you want to talk to Ben, that same confidentiality rule applies as the confidentiality between you and your clients. Friends and pals are entirely separate from the disciplinary committee at the state bar, and information will only be shared between those two entities with the consent of the attorney involved. Now, the statistics are instructive, I think. If you look at the, as of July 1st of this year, Friends had 245 open cases statewide, and of those 245 open cases, 126 of those were self-referrals. PALS, as of July 1st of this year, had 208 open cases, and 69 of those 208 were self-referrals. Now, in both of those categories, the self-referrals were the largest number of any single kind of referral. The second in both of those categories is another attorney making the referral. And then other sources of referrals, of course, would be judges or your family members, maybe a friend. But there are a lot of self-referrals, and the large number of self-referrals indicates confidence in the programs and confidence in the confidentiality of both programs. Now, Some of you know that the Lawyers Assistance Program lives over there on Fayetteville Street in the same building where the State Bar offices are, and it may be hard for some people to grasp that confidentiality. I'm telling you the truth. Ben and I are here today to assure you about that, but if for any reason that's a stumbling block for you and you just can't quite bring yourself to pick up the phone and make that call because of fear that someone over in the disciplinary side might hear you, then you need to be aware of Bar Cares. Now, on everybody's table, there's some little cards with Bar Cares contact information. Also, every one of the Wake County Bar flyers that come out include Bar Cares contact information. And this is how Bar Cares works. Bar Cares is funded by the North Carolina Bar Association, but that's all they do. They fund it and they kind of oversee it, but they're not directly involved with the day-to-day operations. The counseling is contracted to human resource consultants. And when you make a call to Bar Cares, it does not go to the folks out there in Cary at the Bar Center. It goes to a representative of human resource consultants who will do the intake, take the screening, and refer you directly to an appropriate mental health counselor who can help you. Now, a good thing about Bar Cares is that you get the 3 free visits a year, and you can use it as the attorney, or anyone in your immediate family can use those 3 free visits. And fortunately, Wake County Bar is one of those that has opted into the Bar Cares program, so everybody in this room, I presume, is a member of the Wake County Bar and is eligible to use the Bar Care services. If anybody in here or any member of your immediate family needs help with any kind of problem whatsoever that is causing you or that person to not function up to their capacity, their maximum ability, so if it's getting in the way of your practicing law, if it's getting in the way of your family relationships, then I just encourage you to please pick up the phone and call friends or call Bar Cares, call someone. Ben and I are certainly available to talk to anyone. There are also numerous other pals and friends volunteers throughout the state that are listed on the State Bar website. If you go on there and check the PALS program, we're all there with phone numbers, and would encourage you to make those calls because there is help available and there is hope. And now I'll turn the program over to my co-presenter, Ben Brown, who's going to tell you more specific information about the PALS program. Then if we have time, we'll have questions and answers. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Sheryl. That was awesome. My name is Ben Brown. I'm an attorney here in Wake County. As you can see in there, I primarily do criminal defense work. I've been practicing for 14 or 15 years. And I'm here to mainly talk to you about the PALS program. Sheryl focused on friends. One of the differences between our stories is I quit drinking after 10 years of being in practice, and I'll get to that a little bit more. She quit drinking while she was in law school, and there's a lot of different faces to pals and friends. It's not it may not be what you would expect, and hopefully my face and Sheryl's face you can add into your data bank as just another one of the people who can use these programs and be a better lawyer and a better human being for it. So Sheryl talked a little bit about confidentiality. By a show of hands, how many people think that if you call the state bar, it'll stay confidential? And if you talk about your own problem or your colleagues, and that's the problem. It's easy to talk about it in theory. Yes, it's confidential. You call, it's not going to get out. Nobody from the disciplinary committee is going to be, snooping around your bank accounts or around your office. But you're just up against a stigma. You're up against a fear. I remember, like Sheryl, the questions on the bar exam, or your application to the bar exam. Have you ever had a problem with substance abuse? Have you ever had a problem with depression or mental illness? And my fear, I probably had thoughts in college about, maybe I'm not happy as much as I should be. Maybe I should go get some help for that. But I already knew. I thought about taking the bar. I thought about going to law school. I knew if I went to see a health professional, I was really scared that may happen. That could come out. That could be an issue. And that's just one of the things that we're up against. But, like Sheryl was saying, you could call her, you could call me. As attorneys, we would treat it as attorney-client privileged if you wanted to be concerned for yourself or be concerned with others. I thought it was instructive, that Joe and Brad talked about their case. One way to look at that was dealing with someone who had an addiction to power, and we're talking about addictions to other substances, alcohol, drugs, eating, depression. There's all these other things that people use as coping skills for the day-to-day problems that we have in practicing law that turn out to be unhealthy and can kill you. So I like on the front page, why do we need these things? What's up with the practice of law? It says, your lawyer in practice spends a considerable part of his life in doing distasteful things for disagreeable people who must be satisfied against an impossible time limit in which there are hourly interruptions from other disagreeable people who want to derail the train. And for his blood, sweat, and tears, he receives in the end a few unkind words to the effect that it might have been done better and a protest at the size of the fee. I do criminal defense. If I can get a case dismissed, I think that's about the best result there is. And a lot of clients go, well, if the case was dismissed, why should I have even had to pay you at all? So there's a lot of stress out there for lawyers as far as the clients don't understand what you're doing, don't fully grasp the amount of work that you have to do. You're stressed out from dealing with time constraints. You've got billable hours to meet as deadlines for your partnership practice. You've got employees who are embezzling funds, as we saw in the roundtable discussions, and you don't know what to do about that. But there's all kinds of things that can come up. For me, it's as far as a little bit about my story, and I don't want to dwell on every detail because I think when I was in a CLE room like this, usually it was in late February trying to scramble to get my credit hours in, but I was sitting in the back, and no offense to the people in the back, but I was sitting up there, and when somebody would get up here and talk about alcoholism or substance abuse or depression, I would think, okay, I know I don't want to be like that guy. That's I know that's just one thing, check off. Okay, don't be that. It sounds simple. It sounds but that's something that I did, and that's something that a lot of people in the PALS program and friends report. Okay, we know not to do that, but when you find yourself in that situation, it's really tough as an attorney to do something about it and to seek out help. I came from a good family. My parents are still married. They're from Raleigh. I went to Enloe High School, Davidson, UNC School of Law. Got out, decided to start my own practice. I thought it was brave. It turns out it gave me an opportunity to isolate more than it probably wasn't. It probably wasn't the best idea for somebody who didn't want to share his problems with other people. But I think that's endemic to the practice of law. It's an adversarial profession. You're not going to tell the other side all the defects of your case. You're required to keep secrets. Your client tells you something, it's confidential. There's a burden to that. And there's also sometimes a tendency, at least for me, when I've got those secrets for my clients, and I'm keeping those, and that's my responsibility, that's my duty, it made it okay to keep secrets about, my personal life, the things that I wasn't happy about, the things that I hated about the practice of law, the things that I was upset about from my childhood on. Those are secrets that I didn't want to whine about that. I didn't want to complain, but you get used to keeping those secrets, and sometimes alcohol, drugs, sometimes depression sets in. There's these other coping skills or other escapes that attorneys can use. When I started practicing, I was I liked criminal defense. I liked the ease of that. I liked in and out of court. I liked the the social atmosphere, and I like wasn't that adversarial. But practicing on my own was when I was dissatisfied with my clients or dissatisfied with my cases, or even when I was celebrating a win, I didn't have the social network, and that's something that people report. I had a social network outside of the office, and that was something that I relied on more so than a social network of other lawyers. Now I've got other lawyers who are in recovery that I socialize with, that I can talk to about things that are going on in my life. One thing that I always thought was, if you're going to be, stopping drinking, or you're going to get help for something that you've got a problem with depression. I didn't know what it was. There's chicken and egg theory. Was I depressed and then I drank, or did I drink and then I became depressed? I don't know, but I always thought that you stop drinking, and you're just people who don't drink. They sit around at meetings, or they sit around at the PALS program, and they just console themselves about not being able to drink anymore, or okay, we'll just muddle through the rest of our lives, and that's something that we'll just try and make the best we can of it. We'll make a go of this, and that's just the opposite of what happened. It was tough when I stopped drinking. Had to find different social outlets. It was tough for me to go into bars for a while, but I've been doing this for 4.5 years now, and my life is a lot more rich than I ever thought it could be. I've gotten married. I've got a baby on the way, and I've got a practice where I'm not as concerned. I don't live and die on whether I win a case or not. I don't live and die on whether I lose a case, or whether a client appreciates what I've done, or whether another attorney likes me or dislikes me. That was another reason why I didn't want to get help and try and make a change in my life. I was afraid what you guys were gonna say about that. One thing that I learned early on, as Sheryl mentioned this, alcoholism's a disease, and you wouldn't make fun or cast aspersions for somebody if they had cancer or diabetes and they got help for that. But for some reason, alcoholism and drug abuse, it's looked on as a moral failing. It's looked at, well, that's just they're a bad person, or they're irresponsible, and that's just not the way that the doctors are looking at it. The way that they figured out that this affects your brain. It's a disease where your brain tells itself it's not sick, and unfortunately that makes it. There's a lot of people, as Sheryl's told you, that are self-reporting now, and are coming into the state bar. They actually do buy this whole confidentiality thing, which is true, but it's I don't blame you if you're skeptical. Nobody wants to say, well, I've got a colleague, I've got a partner in my firm, and I think he or she may have a problem. I'll call down to the state bar. I'll be the one that causes he or she to lose their law license. Who wants to be that person? But that's the thing that you have to. It may go through your mind, but believe me, believe the other people who I know, who are some of whom are in this room, and it may choose to remain anonymous, but it does work. It is confidential. One of the things that you may be thinking, and I thought of when I was out there before I quit drinking, was I don't want to quit drinking and then they're going to make me get up here and talk in front of a big group of people. And you don't have to do that. That's something that they ask you about. Ed will talk to you about it and say, would you like to go tell your story, get some free CLE credit? And that is actually part of the program of recovery, is carrying the message to other people and letting them realize, hopefully, through listening to Sheryl and listening to me, you can see that there's a lot of life left to live after you stop drinking or stop doing controlled substances or whatever addictive behavior that you're participating in. There's other ways to develop some healthy coping skills, and we're here to tell you that. Wanted to cover a couple of things. as far as the disease concept goes, I looked at it as I was a bad person trying to become a good person before I got sober, and it's actually you're a sick person. I was a sick person trying to become well, and that's about the key thing that I wanted to go there. The statistics are fun and interesting. It shows that 10% of the population are alcoholics or addicts. In law, it's somewhere 15, 18, 20%. It's almost double the rate for the reasons I talked about at the beginning. The questionnaire is particularly fun. If y'all could just raise your hand if this applies to you, we'll go over some of these. Do you lose time from work due to drinking? Is drinking making your home life unhappy? It goes down here. Affecting your reputation. Do you feel remorse? Financial difficulties? Do you crave a drink at a definite time daily? Do you want to drink the next morning? Has your efficiency decreased since as a result of your drinking? Do you routinely drink alone? Do you drink to escape from worries or trouble? You go down this list, and it says here, if you've answered yes to one or more of the questions, it's a warning. You may be an alcoholic. If you've answered yes to two or more of the questions, it's a very good chance you're an alcoholic. If you've answered yes to three or more, please see me after the meeting. It's something that, unfortunately, as when I was drinking and having problems, and I looked at these tests and thought, well, these don't all apply to me, and these tests, they're exaggerating a little bit, and it's unfortunate that sometimes, it requires some friends and colleagues to have the love and respect for a colleague to say, hey, you don't seem happy, or you seem like you're not as effective, you seem like you're a little angrier than you used to be. Those didn't all apply to me, but those kind of things that you can do and help save the life of a fellow attorney is basically why we're here. There's some interesting ethical, we could have done a roundtable discussion just on the ethical rules about when you suspect that another attorney is having a problem with alcohol or depression or drugs, and it's affecting their representation of their client. If you're the opposing attorney, there's interesting ethical issues. They start on page 15 about, if your client tells you, hey, that other lawyer seems like he's having trouble, you need to exploit that. What do you do with that? And then one of the key things here is, if you suspect that someone may have a problem with mental health or alcohol, are you required to report them to the bar? The opinion here is, opinion 3 on inquiry 3 is no, but towards the end it says that it's strongly encouraged that you do. You're not required to report it unless there's a violation of the rules of ethical conduct. If there's, but we're just strongly encouraging people to make the call because it is confidential, and it's something that when I was out there and I didn't have a DWI, I didn't lose my law license. I didn't have all the official things that you look at. I didn't steal my client's money from my trust account and run off to Mexico or Argentina or wherever that guy from Chapel Hill ran off to. I didn't hide evidence in a case, but it was enough for people who know me, and that's one of the things that Joe was talking about back in the day. People knew each other more. The more that we know our fellow attorneys and have relationships and social networks with fellow attorneys and are care about them as opposed to just being adversaries, that I think we've got a better chance to address this issue. My clients expect me to fix all of their problems. They walk in there and they go, well, you're the attorney, you've been to law school, you got experience, you should be able to fix this. It was the scariest thing in the world for me when I realized that I couldn't fix myself. And that's kind of a weird thing. You're an attorney, you're trained to know how to fix problems. You're trained to aggressively advocate. And if the problem is yourself, that's where the PALS program and the Friends program can come into play. It's you don't have to be out there on your own. One other segue from the Duke case, they were talking about candor to the tribunal, candor to other attorneys, and I think the PALS program, the Friends program, can be summed up with, we're talking about candor to yourself. Having the strength and the courage to admit that you may have a problem. There's a lot of people in this room, enough so that there's probably some people in here who deep down know they may have a problem. And I would submit to you that normal people who don't have a problem with alcohol or drugs or depression, they don't sit around thinking about whether they do. It's just not part of the normal day-to-day goings-on of people who don't have problems with alcohol and drugs. That being said, I'm all for people who can drink responsibly. You don't have to become a teetotaler. You don't and advocate abstinence for everybody. I was afraid people wouldn't want to associate with me. I'd be the guy. Oh, don't talk to him. He quit drinking or something. And I realized early on something was true, that there's a saying that your friends will understand, and who gives a damn what your enemies think. And that played out as true. People who were my real friends before I made this change are still my friends. And I don't know about the others. And I've made a lot of new friends. This wasn't, as I thought, going to be the end of my life as a quasi-successful lawyer. I was winning a lot of criminal defense cases. I had a lot of personal injury cases. I was making pretty good money. But I thought, my life as an attorney was over, and it really, it's just given me a chance to begin in a different way. And I want people out there, to know that if this is you've got a chance too. If you're not sure if somebody that is in your firm or a colleague may have an issue, call us. It is confidential. How many people now think it's confidential? Come on, raise your hands, guys. Okay. All right. Thanks for letting me share my story. And remember about the brochures. If you have a question.